All right, Lance Morgan here with Scholarship House and Scholarship Vacations as we talk today about property management. I'm super excited about this topic because we have a guest speaker. Marianne has joined us to talk about property management, and I'm excited to talk about it because it is so crucial to be able to get the most money from these properties. You know, I always like to use the analogy of buying a restaurant. If we go in and buy a restaurant on a good location in town, but not performing very well, we're probably going to go in and we're probably going to gut it. We're going to renovate it. We're going to maybe give it a facelift, but we're also going to get rid of management and we're going to get rid of the chef and we're going to probably hire new management. We're going to hire a new chef, get a new menu, and then do all this marketing to announce this new opening of the restaurant. And then we, jack up all the revenue, reduce all the expenses, and then we can sell it and make money. And I know I like to talk about this flywheel, the Scholarship House business flywheel, where we buy these properties, we design them, we theme them, we manage them correctly, we market them, we maximize the revenue, and then we can sell them and do it all over again. So I'm excited to talk about property management because that is such a huge part in revenue. So without further ado, Marianne, first of all, thank you for joining us. And I would love to have you introduce yourself. Give everybody a little background on who you are and your experience and all of the good things.
I love it. Hey, thanks for having me, Lance. This is a really cool thing to be doing. And I love participating and sharing all the good news about this industry and property management overall. So it's nice to meet all of you out there who are listening. My name is Marianne Heger, and I have been in this industry since I was very, very little. I know that sounds very cliche, but it's absolutely the truth. I was born in Florida, raised in a little island in Puerto Rico, but my dad was the engineer of a five-star hotel. And in this five-star hotel, I don't know how many of you have been to Puerto Rico, but it's still there. It's called El Conquistador. It is the premier five-star hotel. And my dad was the engineer. So I spent most of my weekends growing up in this hotel, smelling, tasting, feeling what does premier hospitality look like, feel like. And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the industry and just absolutely loved it. So as I grew up, of course, I wanted to be a part of that industry, graduated from hospitality school and all of that, which was really wonderful. And then I learned how to monetize this experience economy into money. And this is what got me really juiced up, because now as a grown up, I'm like, wait a minute, what I love can be money. And so I became an investor, got into a real estate industry, built and broke many businesses, had a lot of fun building businesses, and then landed on this new role that I've been in now for about 10 years, which is with a national or global brand called Property Management Inc. And I'm the executive director of operations for them, built the short-term rental vertical, created the model that the rest of the industry now follows. And now I get to sit in boards like Scholarship Houses boards and get to mentor and be a part of what is changing the industry when it comes to property management and experiencing hospitality. Because as you know, Lance, you can have many things, but if you don't have hospitality operationalized through the right property management services, you're just not going to receive the return on that investment that you're looking for. And that's what I get to do. I get to bring that love and passion for hospitality and marry it with the right operational tools to be able to scale that to limitless potential. So.
Awesome. And in addition to all of your wonderful experience with property management, I also know you love what we're doing at Scholarship House to use real estate and short-term rentals, particularly to help families pay for their kids' college educations, because I hear you have several kids yourself. So
I wish I would have known this way back when I was trying to get my kids to college. So Lance, I have one more left and I need to get through college. So this is why I'm here, for sure. For sure. No, yes, guys, I have 7 kids. I've been blessed to be married to the same man for all this time and have these 7 kids. And let me tell you, that is no small feat. Like, wow, right? To provide for them and provide them a really great chance of life. One of the cool things, Lance, for me is that I was raised by immigrant parents. My parents are from Cuba, and that they worked, each of them 3 jobs each, to get me through private school and through college. And I know the sacrifice that it took for them to invest into my education. What I have is because of them. a program like this to be able to provide parents the tools to be able to give their kids the very best. Wow, that's impressive. So no, so I'm all in. I believe in the vision and what it does. And so let's go.
I
Let's do
love
this.
it. I love it. I'm excited. Well, we at Scholarship House are super excited to have you come and sit on the board and create Scholarship Vacations, which is going to be our property management company. We're super excited to be able to show everyone, how to get these 5-star reviews and this amazing guest experience. So let's go ahead and dive right into it, because we know that using a Scholarship House business to pay for college is a great idea. If you pay cash for college, the money's gone. If we take that money, put it towards a Scholarship House business, this business can generate huge tax benefits, which we've gotten into in other videos. And when we've had, of course, guest speakers talk about tax benefits of these scholarship houses. But also it's the cash flow, it's the money. Now, we offer a program where we give them an 8% minimum return on their investment, or 50% of the revenue, whichever is greater. So it's all about that revenue. So let's talk about revenue. How do we generate revenue, and how does property management tie into making money on a short-term rental property?
Oh my gosh, not just any property management. Let's just start with that to start with. Professional property management is very different than just property management alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have a lot of startup companies out there that could manage the business, your investments for you. And that's about 75% of the industry right now. It's those mom and pop short-term rental property managers. And many people will think that those are the right people you want to be managing your property, but that is not the truth. The truth is that you want a professional property management brand. And actually, there's some great statistics out there that speak to this, why this is so important. Actually, professionally managed properties produce 30 to 40% more return on investment than a small operator. I know, just sit and chew on that for just a minute. Do you want 30% more revenue? Do you want 40% more revenue, depending on the markets? This is such a crucial piece to your investment strategy, because if you don't have the right partner managing your property, your return's not going to be great. So think about that. Industry data consistently shows that professionally managed short-term rental properties outperform self-managed properties or small operator property management companies. So in gross revenue. So sometimes in more competitive markets, the gap comes from 3 specific places, if you think about it. And I don't want to get really geeky, because I love numbers and I love things, but you think about why. What is the difference? Well, number one is the pricing sophistication. It's they have the tools and the right systems to be able, the sophisticated systems to create a simplified experience for the guest and for the owners, but also very sophisticated to be able to increase those nightly rates and maximize those nightly rates. So also it has to do with their reach. The right systems reach more travelers, which increase occupancy. When you think about that, it's where is it being listed? How has it been marketed into those online travel agencies like Airbnb? But there's so much more to that strategy. It also talks about having the right website that is attracting to those travelers to optimize the conversion rate of people coming in to book through your site. So there's a lot of it that comes into this. But when you think about that alone, self-managers, if you're yourself, you're just getting started, you have your own property. And yeah, you may have the heart and soul of wanting to wow the guests with the great personable text, but I'm sorry, that can be done in many ways as well. What you want to have is a really great system that manages not just the communications, but the pricing structure of your property. So that's going to be key. They also have the right partnerships with the right people locally to be able to understand how to stage that property, how to find that property in the right location, how does it compare with other properties in that market, to make sure that we have the right property in the right place, designed the right way, and then managed with the right tools to be able to maximize revenue. So
I love that. I want to hone in on what you said about the 30 to 40% more revenue. You know, we talk about this program we offer, this 50-50 partnership program, where we partner with our clients on these properties. And I would say 90% of our clients, that's why they come to us, is they want to partner with us on a property, because we do all the heavy lifting. We have the talent like you helping us, on the management. We have a team helping us on the acquisition, all these different areas of the business model. We have these experts in these different areas. And the idea would be is that you're getting 50% of a huge pie instead of 100% of a small pie. So our goal, of course, is that it's not like we're splitting the revenue 50-50. Our goal is to increase the revenue. Our goal is to put more money back into the pocket of ourselves and our clients. I mean, we're partnered on these deals. And so revenue is just as important to us as it is to our client. And I love, hearing statistics like this, talking about how these professionally managed properties can get more revenue. And I believe it because let's just talk for a minute about reviews. I think we've all shopped on Amazon, right? We've all shopped on Amazon. Probably, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like there's an Amazon or like an Amazon bus parade and between Amazon, UPS, and FedEx. Sometimes I feel like I'm watching a parade outside my front window. My wife, she tries to convince me that it's the toilet paper and the laundry detergent. Everything comes from Amazon supposedly. But anyway, we all shop on Amazon, and if you're like me, it's always based on the stars. Like that's the first thing that I go to. Which one has the most reviews, which one has the highest stars. My wife and I, we just booked an Airbnb for our fall break, and we were looking at these two properties to rent for fall break, and they were almost identical properties, and they were the same distance to the beach, almost identical properties, and very similar pricing, and one had more stars than the other, a higher star, more stars, and a higher, it was like 4.9 versus 4.6 or 7, something like that. And I don't remember the exact statistic, but I remember hearing our revenue manager say that from a 4.6 to a 4.9, there's a huge difference in revenue, just those small differences in stars. So talk to me about how important it is to get those 5-star reviews.
You know what? It's everything.
Yeah.
It's what you chase every step of the way, from when you were looking to invest into the property and the location you were looking to invest into, in the staging of the property, and in the right system to manage the reservations, and the right photos, the right story to tell about the property, and then having the right team on the ground that's managing those turns, the right housekeeper, every detail about the right management of the experience. Mm-hmm. Comes down to chasing that 5-star review. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's what we do all of that parading for. Mm-hmm. It's all about being able to create and deliver an exceptional experience. It's the experience economy. Mm-hmm. And in a world where AI has become the new norm, mm-hmm. of existence, the human desires and craves for human connection, mm-hmm. period. And if you can deliver a premier human experience that they can consistently trust with your brand, mm-hmm. the more that you can deliver on that, the more you're going to win that 5-star review. So everything in the experience, from the time of booking and the communication that you experienced during that booking, to the way that you communicated with them to the time of check-in, the way that they experienced the check-in of that property. I don't know how many of you have arrived at a short-term rental and it's like, I don't know how to get in. I don't know the code. I don't know why this door. I don't understand why it's so complex. I stayed at a short-term rental here in Utah, and it took me 45 minutes to get into the house. The code was so complex. And it was a premier property. It was so complex I couldn't get in. Did I leave them a 5-star review? No. Yeah. So when you think about everything that has to go right in order for you to get that 5-star review, so that you can get that highest occupancy for that property, mm-hmm. so you can get the stars that are going to tell somebody like Lance mm-hmm. to book before they're booked on the other property. Mm-hmm. Everything you do goes to that, again, to why you need professional property management, because it is one of the things that I learned about the hotel. Let me just go there. One of the things that I learned about growing up in this hotel is that you show up at this 5-star hotel and you think that it's just happening. It's mm-hmm. just this. You show up and the towels are just folded on that thing, and you go to the bar and the music's playing and the smell is misting and you think it's all happening naturally, and you're like, this is magical. It's happening just for me. No, it happens for millions and billions of people who stay at this hotel every single day, every time. And so creating that every single time experience every time, that's the trick.
Yeah.
That's the trick. And it's not about the one timer. It's about being able to create something so premier and so predictable that that guest is just wowed every single time from the beginning to the end. And that doesn't just happen. It happens in a million and bazillions of decisions that happen from the beginning to the end of the experience. And then you get to do it again after every turn. So that's the magic of it. And it's what got me really pumped about this industry, because you can operationalize that kind of hospitality that lives you a 5-star review. So professional managed properties, just here's a really fun fact. Opt to maintain a 4.7 to a 4.9 average, which boosts the visibility of that property, your investment in platforms like Airbnb, much higher than anyone else. So directly impact ranking and pricing power for you as an investor. So
that's powerful. And I was setting up my Wi-Fi in my Panama City Beach vacation rental when I bought that house. I was out there setting up the Wi-Fi, and I came up with a good idea for the password. It's 5 stars, please.
Yes.
Send that little subliminal message out there. just plant that out there a little bit,
I love that. That's very clever.
One of the things that I love about what we're doing, with these scholarship houses, and the messaging behind it is helping, these families pay for their kids' college education. So in the guest book, of course, it talks about the family that owns the property and their kids, that are going to be going to college. And it's fun to be able to support a good cause. Right. And I love being able to, not only just create this amazing experience through everything you just talked about, but also having it help another family. So when you go and stay in this house and you're having this amazing experience and you see that you're helping this family, provide an education for their kids, there's that personal connection there, and then we also are going to we're going to provide a college education for every one of our houses. So every one of our scholarship houses will provide a college education for a kid who comes from a family with leprosy, because we're trying to change how these kids, think about leprosy. It's something that can be very easily cured, but they need that education. Right? They need that education to be able to understand that, hey, this is something that's easily curable. They're not, kind of like there's a class system in India that, if your family has leprosy, then you're going to have leprosy and you're going to be a beggar on the street. But if you can educate these kids, then it can change generations to come. And so the reason why I feel like this is tied into those 5-star reviews is because sometimes something could go wrong in a house, but if they know that, hey, this house has this there's this philanthropic effort. We're trying to help, kids in India. We're trying to help this family put their kids in college, then a lot of times they might be a little bit more forgiving, and be willing to let us fix the problem. Because if there's a problem, obviously the goal would be to fix it. And these families will be a little bit more, hopefully people staying in these houses will look at this a little bit differently than a regular house that they're staying in. So I think that's kind of fun with what we are able to do that's a little bit unique. But I want to speak, I know you don't like to brag on yourself, but I'm going to make you brag on yourself for a minute about systems, okay? The importance of systems. One of the first books I read years ago on business was just all about systems. It's all about working in your business or working on your business, not just in your business, right? And if you think about the statistics that talk about how most businesses fail, and there's only a few that succeed, but yet a franchise, has a much higher chance of succeeding because of systems. And I love systems. It's what gets me excited, is knowing that something is very organized and systematic. And I wanted to bring up what you were just talking about a minute ago. You talked about how this experience happens to millions of people, and it's almost like it happens naturally, but it really goes back to the 10 years of your career that has been focusing on building franchises and systems. Speak to the importance of how important that is when it comes to property management, because I look at every one of these scholarship houses as a business. That's why we call it a scholarship house business, because it's not just real estate. It's not like buying a long-term rental. You're not a landlord and you don't have tenants, right? You are a host, okay? And you have guests. Very, very different. And it's not just that, it's having the system in place to know that every box is getting checked and everything goes off without a hitch. So talk about the importance of treating these properties like a standalone business, and not just any business, but like a franchise. Talk about that.
Wow, that's a loaded question in so many ways because I am an operational freak. I love it. I eat it for breakfast, and I think that that's where the magic really happens in any business is, or your personal life. If you think about it, the more that you are able to operationalize the dream or the vision, or we all have these great ideas. We want the 5-star review. Okay, that's great. Everybody wants 5-star reviews. But who gets the 5-star reviews is the one that operationalizes and dove into the system and the processes that are going to deliver on that every single time. And very few people have the mental, it's a skill to be able to do that. And so partnering with someone that knows and has created that system to deliver that thing every time, that's a secret sauce, and it's a secret power that very few people have. I have seen here at PMI, we've built over 450 locations of businesses or franchises. And by doing that, we have learned some really very important core principles of what it takes to build these enterprises, these business models. In short-term rental, more than anything, I believe you're so spot on. Every short-term rental, it's its own business. It's its own ecosystem of business. It has its own P&L. It has its own world. It has its own people component, its own tech component. Its own accounting component. It is an entire business of its own. And the more that investors can come to the table understanding that, this is not a house. This is a business, a place of business. You treat it like such. You insure it like such. You operationalize it as such. And this is what it is. It's an engine to create a business. When a guest comes to your property, they're coming to your place of business. This is a business, and you're creating. Think of Disneyland. Think of, this is a place of business. Everything in Disneyland, the way that it's created and crafted, from the garbage can to how many steps you take to get the smell that makes you want to go buy that thing. All of that is crafted to create an experience within that business, place of business. And that is what a short-term rental is, period. And so I've seen the way in which you systemize that, and it first starts, first and foremost, with the right property in the first market, right? With the right setup, the right experience setup, the right name, the right decorations, the experience that you're going to create within that. You have to create your theme park. Think about it. Think Disney. I'm obsessed with not necessarily going to Disney, but I love the principle that created Disney. It's just so smart. And he knew the vision. He wanted to create a place that will create an experience for parents and their children and families to come and play. That was the vision, period. And he wanted to create that, and then everything that came from that vision. So when you build your short-term rental empire, you build your short-term rental property, your investment, you have the same vision. I'm going to create a space where, based on the size of the property, based on where the location is, where couples can come and get away and have great experiences together, or where families come together and experience this beautiful place together. That's the vision always when it comes to the property. Then you go, okay, now we got to maximize. How am I going to charge for all the right things in this property to make sure that I maximize the financial reward of this specific property, right? So this is where if you are able to create a consistency, the right systems, the right property management software with the right tools, right? The right revenue management tool behind it, the right keyless entry locks in play, the right set that releases in the property at the right time. That is important. The right furniture in the property. When you think about the right, what else can we think about this? When you've got the right amenities, the shampoos, the conditioners, the soap, all these things don't just happen. Somebody doesn't just go to Costco or go to Amazon and say, deliver it at my property. It has to be stocked, and inventory has to be in play. The right gift for the guests when they first arrive, the right TV with the right message on the TV when they arrive. All these things are operationalized with the right systems. A single operator has a very difficult time understanding that that's going to cost, right? There's going to be an investment to that at the beginning, and then not only cost, but there's going to be time that somebody has to spend in managing those systems to deliver that experience every single time. Professional property managers have the ability to create that consistency with the right systems that drive to better reviews. So systems ensure every guest gets the same high quality experience every time, period. If I can say anything else, that's what it does. From faster responses to the way that you communicate with them, gets you more bookings, gets you to be able to upsell more nights versus that. When you think about maximizing the calendar syncing and the pricing tools and the booking workflows, they reduce gaps of nights that are empty. We call those orphan nights within your nights. The systems have the power to do that. When you think about the dynamic pricing, being able to get you 10 to 30% more revenue. Think of that, Lance. 10 to 30% more revenue per property that uses dynamic pricing and revenue management tools, not just set it and forget price labs or any other tool like that. Anybody can do that. It's having the analytic team behind you to look at that data through AI and also look at it through human eyes, understanding markets, trends, feelings of travelers all around the world. When you think about those two main components, this is the most important piece to maximizing that revenue based on season, demand, local events, what's going on in that market. Amazing, all the things. Seamless turnovers. I can go on forever. The technology manages that turn, making sure the housekeeper gets there on time and that they did a good job. They sent you photos. Yes, it looks amazing. And guess what, Mr. and Mrs. Ono, when you come stay at your property, you don't treat it just like a guest in your property with the beautiful cleaning property that you can arrive and stay at. Maintenance, managing maintenance coordination, use right systems, manage all the right maintenance things that need to happen to maintain the property in its pristine condition before and after every single turn. You want to make sure your property remains high there. So I can say so much about this, but it's about delivering the experience with the right systems, doing the right things with the human eyes behind it.
I love that. And honestly, that really honestly just sums it up. And it reminds me of, I think everyone could envision, as you were talking, this amazing business, having all of those pieces in place. Like sometimes just dreaming of having those systems, is something that people don't understand how hard it is to do that. Like you're talking years of your life has been put into this, to dot every, I and cross every T, right? It's like you've thought of everything and people don't realize what goes into that. That's why these franchises are so successful. It reminds me, my first business was almost 30 years ago, and I created these climbing handholds that you bolt on climbing walls because I moved from Utah to Iowa where there wasn't any climbing in Iowa. And so the steepest thing I could find was the witch's hat attic. We bought an old house with this big walk-up attic. And I'm like, I'm going to put a climbing wall in this attic. But I was too poor at the time to buy those holds. And so I learned how to make them. And that led to my first business. And I went out and I bought climbingholds.com. I worked for a Microsoft partner. I was in the IT world back then. And I built my own website. Now, this was back in the day when you had to learn how to type in HTML, not AI. Nowadays you can say, hey, build me a website. And in 10 seconds, it's done practically. Back then, I built the whole website from scratch. I bought this domain name for $1,000 because it was already taken, but I really wanted climbingholds.com because I was super excited about this new company that I was launching, get this amazing website with all my pictures, everything was in place, and I was just waiting to sell all these climbing holds, and it was crickets. I put the website out there, and it was just crickets. That's what taught me I needed to learn SEO, search engine optimization. Nobody knew about my website, right? I had this amazing company, or at least I thought it was amazing. I had this great product, but nobody knew about me, and I was going to provide great customer service, but I didn't have any customers, so I had to learn SEO. I had to learn how to get my website to the top of the search engines. And I'm super excited to say that I got my website, climbingholds.com, to the #1 spot on Google. So when somebody would type in climbing holds, my company was the #1 spot. And I eventually sold the company. And the value of my company was that #1 spot on Google. Like, I mean, there's a number of climbing hold companies. There was really not a lot of value in my my clients or my molds or anything like that. It was that #1 spot on Google. So talk to me a minute about the algorithm of Airbnb, because I look at Airbnb like I did Google 30 years ago, right? Like back in the day, I was trying to get to that #1 spot on on Google. How important is it to get your property on that first page of Airbnb? And what goes into that?
Oh my goodness. You're going to take me down like a serious rant here because everybody wants to list. They think it is just, I'll just list the property on Airbnb and then, it'll start booking and, I'll start a business and people will start buying. Yeah. And no, it's everything. We already know in business that if you do not showcase your property at the top, Airbnb doesn't care about you personally. They only care about your property or how many, even it's not even owner centric. They want to promote a property that sells than books. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And if your property is not booking, it's just not going to be shown as much as other properties like yours would be shown. And so there is a whole lot of analytics that goes behind Airbnb's algorithm of what they show and how they show them. Mm-hmm. But there's some really important pieces, and I'm going to try to stay high level but conversion rate's one of them. The metrics that they follow in order to promote you at the top of Airbnb is how is the conversion rate of your property? That's one of them. Mm-hmm. So that means, hey, I showed up at Airbnb and the majority of the people that view my property, my listing on Airbnb book. They convert into a book. Mm-hmm. So do you know all the millions of things that you have to do to get right to be able to convert and get somebody to book your property? You guys, this is not just the reviews. This is about how does your photo look like? How did you tell the story? What is the name of your property? What photos did you put first at what seasons of the year in that listing? It has to do with the descriptions of the property and the description of the photos. It has to do with the order of the photos in the card, creating the experience that creates somebody to want to convert on that. It doesn't just happen. This is an entire analytic team behind the scenes working to maximize that property's just view of the card of the listing. So if you think about it, you have one listing, think listing A, think listing B. Mm-hmm. Listing A has 100 views, listing B has 100 views. But listing A gets 10 bookings and listing B gets 2 bookings. Okay. Listing A ranks higher, period. That's all there is to it, right? Yep. So think about that. And you improve that by the photos, by the competitive pricing, by the strong reviews, by, there's a lot of metrics. So that's one. The second one, are you good on one?
Yeah.
Ready to move on?
No, that makes sense. In fact, I have to just say, because we spend over $5,000 a day on online marketing, and there's nothing I love more than marketing. Like that gets me all excited hearing you talk about that because, we analyze our numbers daily. What is our cost per click? And what is our conversion rate? And we're constantly testing different pages, because one page might convert different than the other. And it's like literally this online marketing ecosystem inside of Airbnb because they make money when we make money, right?
Exactly. You're not booking, they don't care. They're going to go down to the bottom of the list. Yep. So I love that you said that because that daily eyes on that's the kind of stuff that a professional brand, a professional property manager can do for you versus are you going to sit there every day and try to update your listing every single day in some tweaky way to make it, make it rank higher? No, but we have the systems and the right tools to be able to do that, right? Yes. The second piece of this is going to make you really bump because it's very similar, Lance, right? It's that click-through rate. How often people click on your listing when they see it, right? So not only did they convert into a booking, but how many of them actually click through it? How long did they stay in watching that, in clicking through? So experience photos and the cover photo is, think about who books these properties, Lance. Yeah.
It's my wife.
Think about that. It's the woman. It's the woman, and it's usually the mom or the female or the one who's booking the experience, right? Yep. And I don't know why, and I don't want to sound like I'm being weird, but the statistics show that women are the ones that book the properties the most. Yeah. And because of that, do you know who your target audience is here, and what are you presenting? So, am I going to care to look at a specific feature? Like a guy will probably think it's really cool, but a woman, it's like, I want my husband and my family to come together and have this great memory together in this property. And when I see the pool and the pool toys on the pool and the food on the thing and the colors and that sunset and us, my husband and I having a romantic evening with a cup and a wine and the whole thing, I want to stay there. That's the memory I want. That's what I want to go after, right?
Yeah.
If you don't know how to play that game in short-term rentals, forget it, you're out. Like if it's just not even, presentation is everything when it comes to the experience. And so that click through is like, oh, it's just like Tinder.
Yeah.
I've never done Tinder, but I've heard that you're just gonna swipe, right? And then if you swipe left, you swipe right. Yeah. So what is it that makes you want to go stop? I want to look a little bit deeper into this. It's really a candy store for experiences.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. And so if you have the right cover photo, the right title, the right price, the right thing that makes them go, oh, wait, what? I want to see more, right?
Yes.
When you can do that, now that gets that algorithm pushes you up because you're having more people staying and looking and wanting to see what's going on.
Oh.
Want more? Because I'm going to give you more.
Dish it on. This I could eat this stuff up all day.
Are you ready? Because here I go. Here's the course number 3. It's response time and communication. And this might get a little bit easier if you have the right systems and technology, because you should be able to have quick responses to that. I don't know if you've ever stayed at a short-term rental where you DM or you message the host and the host doesn't respond for 24 hours. Or, I mean, you have really an hour. If you haven't responded within the hour, forget it. Your algorithm is going to go down.
Yep.
So you have to be quick to try here. They have a comment, you respond right away. And the quicker you can respond, the quicker, the more the algorithm's going to go up, because they know that you're hosting, somebody's watching this and really hosting that traveler on their site. So that's going to be a big one.
I got to say, because again, the parallels in online marketing are crazy, because, we call that speed to lead, right? Speed to lead. And it's the intent. When somebody's on your site, and they have a question, they want an answer now, not tomorrow, they're interested now. You got to catch them when the intent is highest, right? And when they're the most excited. So again, huge parallels.
Make sure you match their excitement.
Yes.
Hey, I'm coming to this property. I'm coming with my daughters. Like I just booked. I have a yearly trip I do with my daughters, and it's just the funnest thing. We want to go to a new property, and I'm very picky, as you can imagine, with my short-term rentals. And so I test it. I message the host. I make sure that I'm teasing it. I can tell you exactly what that bed's gonna look like underneath it, just by the crease on that bed. I am a freak. I'm so good at this, and I know exactly. So it's so fun.
I love that.
When they respond right back, and I usually go with a feeling. I'm like, hey guys, I'm so excited. I'm going with my daughters, and we're going to go on a girls trip, and I'm bringing my granddaughter who's going to go to a BTS concert, and I just give them some random thing, and I watch to see how they're going to respond to that. If they respond with the same energy back to me, and they're like, oh my gosh, how exciting. Yeah, we want to do, I'm in. I want to talk to that person. But if they don't, I don't. So there's so much to that. It's not just
that's
a
interesting.
response to saying yes or no. There's so much to that.
Okay, so speaking to that, so many people think you can just automate everything and that you can just use these robots to do all the work for you, and that managing an Airbnb property is hands off. Like, you just made a very good point. We all want that connection. We all want that personal touch, and I feel like that's exactly what you're speaking to, is like, hey, match that energy. Who is on the other end responding to those? And that's why, again, if you're trying to manage this property yourself, you might be in the dentist chair, and somebody's trying to get into their house or to your house and they can't get in. You can't respond for even just 20 minutes. It could be the difference between a 5-star review and a 3-star review.
Exactly. And I can say so much to that, but if I'm an investor, which I am, and I want somebody that I can trust to deliver that experience consistently so that I can maximize the return on my investment, right? Period. We all agree on that one. But I want to be able to relax and get my paycheck every single month going into my bank account on the same day, knowing that I can trust that property management service provider to give me everything that I need with in the right way every single time. Just like the guest wants that, an investor owner wants that as well. And trusting that a property management company is doing everything that they need to do behind the scenes to be able to deliver on that, so that I get that sense of I can relax and be at my dentist office or be somewhere drinking margaritas and not worry about whether I gonna have this investment producing for me, that is everything. To
Yep.
me, it's a no-brainer to pay. The national average for a property management company is 25 to 30% of the booking revenue. And for some investors, that's just like, oh, wait, what? 25 to 30%? But those are just a few of the things that I've mentioned about that have to happen every single time the right way in order for you to create the ROI. Are you gonna do that? Because I know I'm not. I'm not gonna be the one that's doing that. So who's gonna do that? And make sure that you have the right person sitting there. And of course, the review should tell the story. The review should be able to, when Airbnb looks at algorithm and they see, hey, this person's getting these consistent below 4.5. If you get an average of below 4.5% rating, you're done. You're out. You're going to go down to the bottom of that rating. But if you're going 4.6 to 4.8 and above, you start to get status where they're going to want to promote you because those are the properties. And I don't know if you've seen what Airbnb does now, but it's so cool. They have a host guest favorite properties. They have all kinds of really cool badges they can put on your property based on those things. You want all of them. You want every badge, social proof that you can put out there to tell them, come stay here, right? So it's just so cool. And then, of course, pricing competitive. If you don't have your pricing right, your competitors are going to outbid you or outprice you. And there's a way to really play with those where you can lower it for a day, increase the next day. You know, you can really tweak those pricings to make sure that you're overriding a lot of your competitors and over delivering on what your competitors can do. So get fewer clicks, drop in ranking. So dynamic pricing is really kind of what really helps there. You know that the next algorithm piece for Airbnb is booking and cancellation history.
Oh, interesting.
The more cancellations you get,
interesting,
and the fewer and the most frequent declines you give, you get ding for that, and then it just goes down below the searchability. So you want to make sure that you understand all of the things that have to be played just right, so that you have the least amount of cancellations in your listing. And so that's also a strategy in the way you price and in the way that you create cancellation processes in your business. And there's also a way to work around that in the vaccine. But anyway, if you have high cancellation history, you're going to get ding. And then, of course, any active listing, for example, like realty and real estate, a listing that's in the real estate, if it's been there the first few weeks, it gets a ton of hits and people are looking at that listing that you want to buy. But then after it's been there for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and then less people actually update that listing. But when you update it, it kind of brings you back up to the top, right?
Yes.
So the more you're able to get into that listing and very strategically continue to create an activity and a freshness to that listing, the more the listing will keep up to the top.
That's powerful. That's powerful stuff. You know, let's talk about this occupancy rate and average nightly rate, because one of the things that I learned in talking to you and talking to our revenue manager is that initially you think, you know, really high occupancy and really high average nightly rate is the secret sauce, which it is. But at the same time, sometimes you lower your average nightly rate in off seasons, right, to increase that occupancy. So really the metric that a lot of people look at is the RevPAR, you know, revenue per average room is how they refer to it in the hotel industry. But in our world, it's RevPAN, right? Revenue per average night, right? It's not so much just having the highest, you know, nightly rate, because your average might be a little bit lower throughout the year, as long as it's really high during peak seasons and maybe even on the lower side during the off seasons, because you still want it rented, you know, and the one night rentals even. Like, talk to us a little bit about that strategy.
Oh my gosh, there's so much to that. And then of course, you and I both work with some really great revenue management strategists, right? And they know a lot more than I do, and I use them.
Yes.
But I can kind of give you a really good breakdown of to start with. So rev per available night.
Yes.
So that everybody understand, it's one of the most important metrics in short-term rentals, period. That's your main KPI, because it tells you how well the property is actually performing. Combining both pricing and occupancy into one number. It's kind of what it's doing. So this average daily rate times occupancy rate. That's how you create that RevPAN formula. And what it really means, it's simple, it's that your average nightly price, you know, and then percentage of the nights booked shows how much money you can make per night per property. And that's available. And when it's booked and when it's not. And you want to know that. You want to know when it's booked and you want to know when it's not. So just to kind of
and that speaks to the algorithm too, because like you said, is if your property is getting all that action, even in the off season, if it's the one getting rented, then again, it's staying at the top of the listings. It all goes back to that algorithm of being at the top of Airbnb, because you might be taking a smaller or a lower nightly rate, but it's getting booked. It's got action. It's, and it's a property that is clearly a favorite and staying at the top, and I think that is extremely powerful. One of the biggest, because of course my background comes from the financial world, so I geek out on numbers, of course, but like one of the aha moments that I had was when I realized that $1 million house with a 6% mortgage versus a $1 million house with a 3% mortgage, which I would say most of us would agree that we're probably not going to go back to those days. We might get into a 4% mortgage again, but a 3% mortgage, we may not see that in our lifetime. I don't know. But nonetheless, going from a 6% mortgage to a 3% mortgage is about $1,500 a month on $1 million house. Now, a lot of investors that look at this as real estate, and again, I'm always trying to talk about these vacation rentals as a business more than real estate, because so many people look at real estate through the eyes of like interest rates. Like right now, when interest rates are a little higher, you don't see as many investors buying a lot of properties, and people are like, oh, I'm going to wait until interest rates come down. Now, if interest rates were at 3%, then more and more people would get into the market, and more people would start buying these properties, because at 3%, they think they can make money. But the reality of it is we're talking $1,500 a month at a $500 average nightly rate. That's 3 nights, right? 3 nights in a month is all you need to be equal to a 3% mortgage, and so many people are so focused on the mortgage rate. They just think, oh, I'm going to wait until mortgage rates come down and then I'm going to make all this money. But everything that you've been talking about has been talking about ways to increase the average nightly rate and also the occupancy. And it doesn't take much. If you applied everything you've been talking about, it wouldn't be hard to get an extra $1,500 a month.
Oh, no, especially if you have the right property in the right location and you've done the work, right? You've done the work to find the right property in the right location that's going to tell the right story to want people to stay, attract the right guests. So yeah, all of that comes together. But yeah, no, $1,500, that means you can charge more per night. And then when you can charge more per night, you become that top 20% of the market. You become that top 10. Heck, let's go top 5. Like your property should be the top 5 producing property in that market. And if you do that, let me tell you, the $1,500 isn't going to mean anything. That's just going to be a non-issue. The world is traveling and never going to stop traveling. For whatever reason, we're traveling, but we're never going to stop traveling. And short-term rentals are the solution. So what? Then find me the best place that I can stay at, that I can trust, that's going to give me the highest. And that's actually, I can go so long. But I also think that wouldn't it be cool to think about this way? Let's say occupancy goes down. Let's say something happens. Let's see COVID happen, right? COVID happened, and for the first month or 2, it was really scary, and we were like, holy crap, what are we going to do, right? Okay, so we have a patch of time, or a seasonality comes into play, and you're like, well, I'm scared, am I going to make money? Everybody that had a short-term rental post-COVID, a month, 30 days or 60 days after that, more than made the money. Why? Because they were charging more per night, and they were having the occupancy to fill that. But those properties that you're managing, what I love about the Scholarship House program is that these are properties that are going to become high-producing properties. They're going to become that 10% of that market. And because of that, you're going to capture the guests before anybody else gets there. And that model right there is what you're chasing. You're chasing the best property in the best market that's going to outperform. So what? You have low occupancy, but because you have such a high nightly rate and you're able to produce that high valuable night, it's okay. You're going to be okay. That's a non-issue. So
it solves a lot of problems.
The net effect, right? You think about the year. You're not thinking the short-term rentals. You're not thinking just about this month, right? You're thinking about the average across the entire performance of this property over the year and over the length of your journey, 5 years, 6 years, whatever the length of time. And that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the full performance of that. So anyway, there's a lot that can go, but you just want to make sure that you test the raise of price. So if the occupancy drops, the revenue per available night becomes a big issue. So maximize the RevPAN, not just price or bookings. That's the bottom line.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. You know, we've talked a lot about the algorithm. We've talked a lot about getting to the number one spot on Airbnb. Well, in our world of online marketing, we're always trying to get leads and we're spending a lot of money on leads. And a lot of times you have to protect yourself as a business, and any smart business, you want to have your own sandbox that you own and control. In online marketing, it all started back with like an email list. You know, if your net worth is your network is your net worth, you know, and the more people you have on your email list, the more you can control your revenue because you control those email addresses. You can send out an email anytime you want, you know, versus being dependent on maybe a certain platform, right? Because platforms change, social media changes all the time. You know, so we might currently have all of our revenue and all of our leads coming from Facebook. But then, you know, Instagram came along and we started to do a lot more on Instagram. And then there's LinkedIn, there's YouTube. We do a lot on YouTube now. So it's like you're trying to create multiple revenue sources, you know, because that's diversification. It helps to reduce risk. Now, in Airbnb world, they could just decide for whatever reason that your house is no longer their favorite. And the next thing you know, you're not in that number one spot or you're not on the first page, you know, just because they decide that they want to give somebody else a shot or whatever the case may be. So you can do everything you can to get to that number one spot and to get on that first page. But let's talk about completely opposite now. Let's talk about direct bookings, because direct bookings, having your own site, having your own ability to collect bookings directly, and building that list, that customer list, right? That list of clients that are going to come back over and over again. One of the things that I love is that I was taught the importance of branding and creating this brand. And yes, we have this Scholarship House brand, and our message is, hey, stay in a scholarship house for your next vacation because you're going to support this child's education and you're going to help this child from India and some of these other nonprofits that we're supporting to get an education as well. So there's this philanthropic behind it, but there's also this reason to book directly on a site and also get repeat customers. So we, of course, have all the technology in-house, all the marketing in-house to where we can have all of our guests, you know, and we can drip on them on a regular basis, sending out newsletters, sending out reminders, discount codes, things like that to get people to directly book their next house with us. Because let's be honest, Airbnb is taking 15.5% of your revenue. So getting direct bookings can also get you a bigger piece of that pie. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, one of the things that happened I'll go back to COVID, when COVID happened, we had 120 franchise partners here at PMI that were doing short-term rentals. And at first it was a panic because guess what? You know what Airbnb did? Airbnb canceled every one of those reservations for the hosts.
Wow.
Without asking them, without giving them an opportunity to go call those guests and be able to say, hey, can we rebook you for another time? No, they just canceled everything. They controlled their world. They controlled the property's world, the owner's world, to be able to make an impact or change. No, they canceled everything. And when you cancel everything, there could have been so many ways it could have gone. You could have said, hey, no, let's reschedule, or you can book directly with me and I'll make sure the property is sanitized and No, business was taken out from under them. And so that awakened a lot of awareness in this industry for property management companies and owners and alike and professionals to say, wait a minute, time out. I better not keep putting all my eggs in this basket. They have the power to take my business from me. And so that became an even more important strategy and the most powerful form of diversification in short-term rentals, because it gives us the control to create higher margins and to have control over how we manage that experience for the travel. We love Airbnb, we love Booking.com, we love VRBO, Expedia, all those great places are great. And there's a whole strategy to diversifying across those platforms already that a good professional property management company should have to be able to diversify the exposure of your property. Okay, we'll bring that guest through those platforms once. That's my rule.
Yeah.
You bring them in through that platform once, but my gosh, you better be ready to make sure that the second time they book directly with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love them because they market for me. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. I'll pay my marketing fee for one
Yep.
time, but then moving forward, no, they're mine.
Yep.
And so that direct really means that you have your own website, you have your own repeat stays, you have your own referrals, you have your own social media and marketing to that as well.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
You have to have the right ecosystem and the right systems that are going to build that. And let me tell you, that doesn't just happen overnight. That takes time to build, reputation to build. It takes a minute, and there are systems that get you there, from collecting the guest data from when they arrive at the property and having the right system there to collect it, having the right marketing and social media campaign to reach out to them post-stay after that. It's an entire ecosystem that needs to be built up for that. And we know how to do it, and the world is refining that because of that. You know, they want to trust Airbnb. Yeah, they may do that the first time, but moving forward, they're mine. They're my guest. It's my customer.
I love that. That is huge. And that is so exciting to me because, again, I get so excited about the business aspect of this. You know, each one of these houses is a business, building a customer base. And one of the benefits that we have is combining all these scholarship houses together under one roof. It's one roof, it's one brand, you know, and if they have a great experience in one house, they're going to have a great experience in another house. And we can not only is it going to be like, hey, let's get the person who visits this house in Florida to keep coming back to this house in Florida. No, we can get them to visit this other house in California. We could get them to visit a house in the Smoky Mountains. Like, as once they've had a great experience with us, we've got more houses that they can go visit, which is a lot of fun.
You know what? That I call that's the scholarship house experience.
Yes, exactly.
And that is a premier experience, right?
Yes.
Your brand is the experience that they know they can trust and stay at and have the right experience that they want to stay. We think Airbnb provides that, but as we're getting savvy right now, right? We know that not every Airbnb experience is not the same. And I think the traveler has figured out that it's not Airbnb hosting them.
Yeah.
It's the brand behind that. It's the property owner behind that, the property management company behind that that's actually doing that. So that's become such an important piece of this that people understand, that people are wanting to go book direct with you because of that. They experience that. Now, if you can put all of those scholarship house portfolio in that beautiful group of aggregator properties and create a standardized experience across all of those, that's magic, right? That's brand. That's the Marriott now. That's like, you know, I have certain hotels that I'm really snobby about, and I want to stay in those hotels. Why? Because I know exactly when I stay at that hotel what I'm going to get. And when I'm in a budget, I'll stay at my, you know, whatever, Marriott. I'll stay whatever, and then I know that what I'm gonna get every time I stay there, right? There's some 5-star hotels that I'm sure I'm not going to bend on because I mean, if none of you have stayed at the Boca Raton Hotel in Miami, Florida, please do stay, because it'll teach you how to create that premier experience in your short-term rental. If you can do what they do in a hotel in your property, you'll win. But
That's awesome.
Anyway, that's standardized, right? Like, we need to be able to standardize that, and centralizing the brain of your operation to create a standardized experience across the scholarship house properties. That's an incredible opportunity to have everybody within your collection of properties within that brand to really book more than others would.
I love it. Well, I think you and I could go on all day. I'm excited. I'm glad that you were willing to shoot this little video with me and to join me on this call, because I wanted to just share. I wanted to share you with our clients and have them to see who's behind the property management here at Scholarship House and Scholarship Vacations. Super glad that you came with us, you know, and joined us and to help us build this out and be on our board. And, you know, and if you think about it, again, it's a business decision. When somebody's investing in one of these properties, whether they're looking at partnering with us or just buying it by themselves, you know, it's a business decision that they're going to invest in. You know, and I love the show Shark Tank. I had the privilege of working with Kevin Harrington, one of the original sharks from Shark Tank, and I love the show Shark Tank. And one of the things that I love about it is that you're not giving anything up when you bring somebody on that can help you take to that next level. So by me partnering with you, for example, and getting your expertise to be able to help us build this brand and build this, you know, we are capitalizing on all the years of experience that you have to help us condense time and get there faster. And so we're able to accomplish our goals a lot faster. And some people look at it as giving something up. You know, you see those people on Shark Tank that are like, oh, I don't want to give you another another 3% of my company, you know, and yet that extra 3% could have quadrupled their company. So it's like, you know, do you want 50% of something really big, or do you want 100% of something really small? And so I love that Shark Tank analogy of, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to own 100% of something to make a lot of money in something. And if you think of the best example out there would be people like, you know, Amazon and Jeff Bezos. You know, he owns a very small percentage of Amazon, and yet he's got plenty of money and does quite well. One of the richest men in the world. And yet he doesn't even own 100% of his company. And I know that is true with most of the multi-billionaires. You know, they own a very small piece of something really big. And hopefully everyone can see how big, you know, this is and how big it's going to get as it continues to grow. And we have thousands of scholarship houses all over the country. So thank you. Thank you for joining us. It's been a lot of fun.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Hospitality rules the world.
Yes,
Let's
it does.
Make sure we keep that in everything that we do, and this will be okay.
Love it. Well said. All right. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. Other than editing the leprosy section, make sure you edit that. I have the hardest time thinking of that word sometimes.
That's not something we hear very much anymore.
The founder of that nonprofit is from Bountiful, and we're meeting with her on Sunday night and kind of finalizing that